We can learn from watching people's successes, or we can learn from watching their mistakes. And you can learn just as much from people's mistakes as you can from their successes. And so
True.
what I've been trying to do for 9 years is say, hey, here's where I screwed up. You don't have to do it because I've already done it for you.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to my show. My name is Tiffany, and this is Unveiling Journeys. I'm super excited to have you joining me in this podcast episode today. I have an amazing guest, as always, and I want to tell you just real quick a little bit about me. I love meeting new people. I love hanging out with cool people. I love hearing their stories. And if anything, I've been taught over the last few years the power of like +1, the power of referrals, the power of being able to show up and say, hey, do you have anybody that you know that I need to know? Or tell me your whole story. Tell me your business. Is there anybody that I know that you need to know? And we kind of just help, small, medium businesses run around and around. And I love it so much. But let me just tell you, the coolest people I've met with their incredible stories, their heartwarming place where they come from, and the way they operate their business, I I can't keep them a secret. I want to tell everybody about them and what they're up to and how they've been able to do incredible things in this world and want to share. So that's why I do the show, and it's a give back from my heart to be able to share what people are up to that you maybe didn't know about, and now you do. So with that, I, through the power of networking, got referred to an incredible human being that I get to interview today. So with that, welcome, Gary. Thank you so much for coming on my show today. I'm excited to have time with you. Tell everybody who you are and what you're up to right now.
Well, thank you for having me. It's a wonderful thing that you're doing, and it's nice to have met you through our network, Doug Crow. And so I'm Gary Cooper. I am an entrepreneur in healthcare. I have been for 30 years, and I've been in home healthcare specifically, and anything to do to keep patients in their home or to improve their lives if they're not in their home. And I've been doing that for 30 years.
It's awesome. That's a huge thing because I feel like being home is where your comfort level's at, familiarity, right? Like being able to be in your safe space, but then also understanding that that's a real thing, making that medically available. Because I don't think that we really ever thought like that for a long time. It's like, just go to the doctor, go to the hospital, go to like a retirement, or go to like a facility. I know the F word is a bad word in the home healthcare system, right? It's like, oh
No,
gosh.
no, it's not a bad word. It's necessary, right? I mean,
Yeah.
my mom's in one right now, and this is so necessary. Those places are wonderful places. I just happened to grow up in them. I grew up in them in the 70s and 80s when I was a child, and they weren't wonderful. There wasn't anything as a child, I didn't think they were wonderful. They were wonderful places, but as a child, I didn't think they were wonderful. Most of my friends were playing ball outside and or watching cartoons. And this Saturday was the only day for cartoons when I was a kid. And so I wasn't watching cartoons. I was in these facilities with little old people. And at the time, they still tied patients down to the beds because they didn't have Valium and Xanax and things to keep patients calm. So as a kid, that's how I grew up because my dad was a wonderful man, and he and my mother started a pharmacy, and they delivered drugs to nursing homes. And then we delivered drugs to nursing homes. And then he ended up owning nursing homes and assisted living facilities. And they weren't really assisted livings like we know them today. They were more residential care homes. And so as a kid, I grew up in these things, and we didn't like them. Most kids don't like their parents' job. And so I didn't like my parents' job, but I didn't know that a seed was being planted in me, kind of like that mustard seed that we hear about in the Bible. So there was a seed being planted in me when I was a little boy about there's a way to take care of people. And my dad and all the people back in the 70s and 80s were doing wonderful work. I just didn't recognize it. So when I got older, that seed started to blossom and I didn't even know it. So the F word is not a bad word. It's
Yeah,
wonderful
necessary,
words and
right?
they're amazing. They're amazing now. Some of them have bars and restaurants and swimming
Yeah,
pools and man,
right?
I want to go now, you know? So
Right, right.
anyway,
Those are the
anyway,
ones that
that's
we
kind
want to
of
go to.
that's a little bit of an explanation.
Oh, I want to hear more about how this all evolved to get you where you're at right now. So, like, in the nature of unveiling your journey, tell me, where are you from? And like, what did you want to do growing up? Or like, what'd you go to school for? Like, I know it's a whole big, like, loaded question, but start from the beginning.
So me and my wife live in Pawleys Island, South Carolina. I've been married for 30 years. Don't know how, but we have been. And we have 4 children. Our daughter's 29, and our 3 boys are 27, 24, and 19. And I grew up about 30 miles away during the school year, and we grew up at the beach during the summers. And I met my wife here at the beach where I live. And I've never lived anywhere different. And so I don't know anything different than Pawleys Island. And if you've ever been in a hammock, it probably came from Pawleys Island, where I'm from. And so that's kind of our claim to fame.
Yeah.
It's Pawleys is in between Charleston and Myrtle Beach. And it's a quiet little resort town. It's a beautiful place. And getting to the getting to the how did it come about? My career. So I wanted to be a doctor. So I went to this little college called Wofford and I took a class called cellular biology and I basically flunked out. And then I realized I wasn't going to be a doctor. And so I started studying economics and it was easy for me. I didn't have to study that much and accounting came very easy for me. And I graduated with an economics degree and there ain't nothing you can do with that except go back to school. So I applied to get my MBA, my Master's of Health Administration, and law school. I got put on the waiting list for law school. I got in the other two. And I realized this was 30 years ago. There were a lot of MBAs, but there weren't many MHAs. And my family had a lot to do with healthcare at the time. And so I went to this MHA program very reluctantly. It's kind of like thanking God for those unanswered prayers, right?
Yeah.
So my wife was in law school and I was going to go to this MHA program just so I could go to law school. And while she was in law school, I was, in the same room with her studying that and I hated it. And I was in this MHA program and it wasn't easy. It was interesting. So I excelled in it. I really excelled in it. And it was everything that was like second nature to me. It really was like a fish getting into water. And so as I was getting it, my father, who I thought was just this old country guy, um, really was that guy. There's a book by Malcolm Gladwell called Outlier.
Yes, I love that book.
And my father was that guy. He was the guy who was born at the right time, who came out of school at the right time. He came out of school the year Medicare was invented, and he spent more than his 10,000 hours. He became an expert in his field. I happened to grow up in that environment, and everything outside of the hospital is called post-acute. And so I had this post-acute experience as a child. Then I grew up and I went to graduate school for it. And then I'm hanging out with my dad, and he says, "Well, what do you want to do when you get out of school?" And he just sold his pharmacy, which was a nursing-owned pharmacy. We call it institutional pharmacy now. And I said, "Well, I might go take a job with that company that you sold to." And he said, "Son, that's what you want to look like, not what you want to be, because those guys all wore fancy suits and they flew around on jets and they were doing M&A. And that's a difficult question. What do you want to be when you grow up when you're 24? Because I never have been one of those guys that knows what I want to be. Like some people know they want to be. I'm looking at the space shuttle behind you. Like John Glenn knew he wanted to be an aviator. I just read a book about John Glenn, and he knew he wanted to be an aviator from the time he was 8. I didn't know that. I wasn't struck with this thing that I had to be. So I was going back to graduate school and I started thinking about it, and I knew what I wanted, the people I wanted to help. And that has been the driving force of my life ever since. So the people I wanted to help were those little old ladies. And so that's been the driving force for the last 30 years. I wanted to keep those little old ladies. I wanted to give them an alternative. And so that's what I finished my graduate career on. Came back with my dad and started a home care company. And we became the top 100 home care companies in the country in 3 years. And then he passed away. And then life got really tricky after that. But I'll stop there and see if you have any other questions.
It's funny to think you recognize your dad as having that 10,000 hours, the perfect time, the perfect place, and the time behind him. But you were darn near close to almost having your 10,000 hours in the home family business, being exposed to how people behave and act and react and what's normal and the culture and all the above, to think, oh, this is my comfort zone now, really. I tell people my comfort zone is real estate. I can almost do anything, but I'm happiest, easiest. It makes so much sense. And my brain is like, oh, the second nature, right? So you were there too with your hours under your belt to naturally decide, well, it might be hard, but I get it and I understand it. And the joy of being able to see the fulfillment of what it is that you do in the healthcare space. Now, opening that company, that's a huge step. I mean, was that something that he sold that previous company and you guys did together as a team?
Yes, we did it as a team. He had the wherewithal, the financial backing, and he had the management experience to teach me without micromanaging me to do that. And so I thought I was this young whippersnapper that was, I thought I was the reason for the success. I would say what I did not understand was the power of reputation. He had a reputation of being someone that people trusted for 30 years. And so I could say his company's name and people would automatically trust us. And so getting business wasn't as hard as probably it should have been because of his 30 years of laying down a firm foundation. So yeah, we started that business from scratch, but I got a 30-year head start.
Makes sense. Yeah. That's incredible. Think about that. It's again the time and the place and the perfect ability to walk into something to create something new. And it's fun to see that you saw that ability to have that vision together with him now to create this business. Now, that business you guys had, you have you been doing that ever since? Has this grown into exactly where you're at now?
Well, it's so when he passed away, I never thought I would be a guy who built and sold companies. And that's what I've turned out to be. Um, when he passed away, I was 28 and we were doing $25 million a year, but I had no infrastructure, no IT, no accounting, no anything. And the banks called all my loans due in full. And so, because I asked them why, and they said, well, you had a significant change in management. That was their terminology. What it was the guarantor died. And I didn't have all those other things. And so the the hardest thing I ever went through was refinancing the companies. And I would say the unfortunate thing in a lot of ways was I was successful doing so. And I say unfortunate because I did it and I was successful. And here's the rub. I did it because I worked hard, I pulled all nighters, I did what it took, and there's a cost for that. And the cost was my family, my health, my relationships, and all of those other things. What is the cost of success? And that's a really big cost. Like, what character am I willing to sacrifice to get ahead? And so I didn't know there was an option. I only knew that my mom was now, and fortunately, she didn't have to be the guarantor, but this was a significant part of her equity. So I was doing whatever it took. It didn't matter to me that I had to drive 70,000 miles a year for 25 years. It didn't matter to me that if I had to miss significant events. It didn't matter to me that I had to do all those things because I wanted to be successful. So I learned how to do M&A. I learned how to meet with private equity companies. I learned how to sell companies to publicly traded companies. I learned that through trial and error.
Huh.
I learned how to do it without an investment banker. Foolish mistake, but I did it anyway. And so the price was, and the greatest lessons in life, costly, right? So I learned them. And now I have that experience that I can share with you or others on podcasts like this. So the last 9 years, I've been sharing those experiences, the dumb mistakes, the hard
Those are,
mistakes.
yeah, hard to admit also, but so grateful when people do, because I think everybody else feels not as alone when they see that, man, people that are going through those lows, I'm one of those people here and there too, right? Like, if people can live through my mistakes, maybe I can avoid some pitfalls or potholes in the road for them too. Um, I know we shared our stories kind of with each other, but how much of that do you want to share here to help people out to feel out where you've been?
I think the word transparent is so overused. I get tired when people use that word. So I just be open and honest. Yes, we've had tremendous success, and it's definitely not Gary. It's Gary and Connie and Robert and Tim and all of my business partners and Thomas Otis and so many of my wonderful business partners, and we're all still friends. Pam and Mike Busby. And we went through death and divorce and having children and raising children. Now our children are having children. And it was wonderful. Um, but I'm an alcoholic. I've had 3 hip replacements. I've had back surgery. I don't know how we stayed married through all of the insanity and sometimes despicable things that I did. And I was fortunate to keep all of my partners. And forgiveness is an amazing thing. Redemption is an amazing thing. And the transformation when I was able to admit faults and to ask for forgiveness and to forgive, um, those those things and learn a lot of the paradoxes I talk about in the book to not be the smartest person in the room, or at least think I was, because everybody knew I wasn't. To be quiet, to be heard, to rest, to be productive. See, I was busy. I wasn't productive. I had to invest in the science of management. I had to learn to admit mistakes. I had to learn, this is a big one, to ask for help. I could not ask for help. I didn't know that was a thing. I thought I had to have all the answers,
Yeah.
and I don't. And so now Palmetto Infusion, one of our companies, has 59 locations, opening up 10 more in 6 states. We're private equity backed. We found the right partner for this company. We've made not just ourselves the partners and our private equity partners, but a lot of employees, a lot of money. But we also have 40,000 patients that we take care of on a daily basis. And I don't know what percentage of our patients get assistance financially, but it's a large part of them because they need it, because these drugs are very expensive. So that transformation of being a know-it-all and a blowhard and a guy who thought he knew everything to learning humility and learning to serve others rather than be selfish has been one of the greatest lessons in my life. Also the
Awesome.
most costly.
Yeah. Right. Think you're fortunate to have so many people stay by you through the hard times in this. You have an amazing set of people and family around you for that.
I don't take that for granted. And I tell them that frequently.
Now, you said in your book, tell me about that.
So I didn't ever you asked me what I wanted to be when I was a kid. I never had a book in mind at all. And so when I hit my really um, dark night of the soul, um, I got better. And still had no intention of writing a book. But about a year later, our best friend's kid committed suicide. And this kid was the most beautiful kid you've ever seen in your life. He was 6 feet tall. No, he's probably 6'4". His name was Jack Buffington. He was beautiful. 6'4", blonde hair. Jack, every girl wanted to be with Jack and every boy wanted to be Jack. And Jack committed suicide. And I felt like I had been Jack my whole life. I compared myself to others. And this thing that we all carry in our pockets, um, I didn't have that as a kid, but I can imagine. I call Facebook fake book
Yeah.
because everybody puts up. That's why I talk about the failures as much as I talk about any of our successes. Is people only put up, when you're kids, they only put up their good grades. They don't put up their bad grades. They don't put up that they have to take, medicine to get over the anxiety. They don't put up the fact that they're seeing counselors. They don't put up the fact that they're having all this trouble. But they put up the good grades, or they put up their vacations, or they put up Photoshop pictures. And they don't put up their bad pictures. They don't put up their not so proud moments. And so neither do we as adults. And so the lessons I learned from the least likely people are things that I put in the book. And the other reason I wrote it was one of the only ways that I stay grounded is going back to help people,
Mm,
because it's easy for me to forget that I didn't have anything. I may be the feet and the hands that do this work, but it's really God who is doing it for me. And so it's easy for my ego to get caught back up into, wow, look, you got out of the woods, everything's cool again. But it's easy for me to think, man, look what I did. Why don't you go do more? And when I get that, and I'm not saying I don't, because I do. Normally, when I get out ahead of the pack, I get slapped. I get slapped backwards. And countries get slapped, and people get slapped, and companies get slapped. And I got slapped so hard, I don't want to get slapped again. And so I put in some just practices that I learned from I call them wise people. They don't have to be smart, but they're wise. And so I put some of these wisdom nuggets in a book.
What is the title of your book?
Success Paradox.
Ooh,
So
yeah.
almost all of us just do the opposite of it's maybe not opposite of your human nature, but it was the opposite of my human nature. I was told, don't you cry, boy. To go and get stuff, work harder. Don't ever let anybody see you sweat. And so I had to unlearn those things at 45. I'm 54 now, and I'm still unlearning a lot of those things.
I'm glad you got it all written down to be able to share with people, hopefully get there faster, right? To share those nuggets of wisdom to help someone
Well,
out on their journey.
I feel like if you don't, you can human beings can learn two ways. We can learn from watching people's successes, or we can learn from watching their mistakes. And you can learn just as much from people's mistakes as you can from their successes. And so
Hmm.
what I've been trying to do for 9 years is say, "Hey, here's where I screwed up. You don't have to do it because I've already done it for you."
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. I like that. Now, how long ago did you put out your book?
I think it's 3 years old, 2 or 3 years old.
Oh, that's awesome. You've got to cram a lot of life in there. I look forward. I'm going to put it on my list. I'm so sorry. I forgot to pick one up before we had this interview so I could read it before we get together. So I'll put it on my list and make it happen. Now, after you've you had to reinvent yourself with the company and refinance and get, I mean, you're still showing up. You've got these locations, you're adding 10 more, you're growing. But let me ask you this. You keep doing it. You keep putting in the hours, you keep putting in the energy. Why do you keep going? Why do you keep working? Why do you keep showing up?
Um, that's a great question. It's a really good question. I think being part of a team gives me more energy than I give them. You know, there's something special about building something, and maybe I'm addicted to that. You know, maybe I just am addicted to that. And if you've ever built something and you've seen the joy and the value creation, and you've seen that come together once, you really do want to do it again. And what we did at Palmetto Infusion is we created ways for people, our people, to enjoy the upside. And so 9 years ago, I created a mission, vision, and values for myself. And I thought about it. So why can you run businesses better than you can run your life? Because our business was pretty good and my life was crap. And so I said, why don't you start thinking about your life like a business? So I created a mission, vision, and values for myself. And so my mission in life is to inspire others through my actions. And so actions speak a lot louder than words. So at Palmetto, we put in incentive plans or equity type plans that are giving people the same benefit my dad gave me when I was 25. And so I spent about 50% of my time doing things unrelated to work. It's one-to-ones with people trying to start their own business, or one-to-ones with people in a business and they don't know their way out, or maybe there's something wrong with them physically, or maybe there's something wrong with them emotionally, or maybe there's something going on and they just can't put their finger on it. And so I don't call it coaching, and I don't charge anything. I just meet with people. And there's a proverb called that says iron sharpens iron. And so they thank me, and I'm like, please don't thank me because you're helping me as much as I'm helping you. So a lot of people play golf. I do play golf. A lot of people like to hunt. I do hunt, but I find more enjoyment helping people than I do anything else.
That's amazing. All right. At this point, people are thinking, I want to know you. I want to follow you. I want to reach out. Like, what's your favorite way for people to get a hold of you?
I'm on LinkedIn. So Gary Cooper, and then Palmetto Infusion. I don't know how to do the URL and all that stuff. So if you go to Gary Cooper, Palmetto Infusion, you can find me on LinkedIn. And then I never wanted to be like this self promotion guy, but I do have my own website, GaryCooper.com. But it's Gary C. Cooper. There was an actor named Gary Cooper, and
Oh,
that
yeah.
that Joker is more famous than I am. So he got the Gary Cooper website. So GaryCCooper.com is a website, and it has, you know, anything about me, what kind of companies I'm involved in and stuff. And that's the best way to get in touch with me.
I love it. That's perfect. And if
It
you're
has
like,
my
Tim,
phone number and email and stuff on there.
oh, that's perfect. I love it. You're so generous with your time. That's something that to be appreciated and looked up to. I have only two more questions left. It's kind of what's next. Like we got to tell your whole story. What's on the horizon for you?
So I have 4 kids, and I'm helping one of them start his own home healthcare company. Full circle. It's really, really special. And I'm not helping him run it. I'm doing just what my dad did. He has advisors that help him run it. I'm his investor, and I'm helping him run that. It's an interim healthcare franchise, and it's been a very rewarding experience. Then we have one kid who's in law school. I'm looking forward to seeing how that goes. One kid who's playing college basketball, and that's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And then I'm the chairman of Palmetto Infusion, and that's busy. That's a busy process. And then I would really enjoy being on boards of other companies, particularly companies that have sold. They're the first time to sell to a private equity firm
Mm,
because that's a difficult transition. You were the dude or you were the lady and you were the founder, and then you sold your company, and now all of a sudden somebody else is either making decisions or helping you. And that's a very difficult transition. And somehow, 6 years later, I'm still here. And that took a lot of investment for me and my partners to learn how to be good private equity backed companies. And otherwise we wouldn't be here. And so a lot of credit goes to Carousel Capital that acquired us. They've been very patient and understanding with us. But some of the credit goes to us for learning how to be private equity backed company. So I would love to help companies in that space as well.
that's awesome. This is really good stuff you're going to be working towards. So I'm going to keep an eye out to see what you're up to. Now, this is the last question I have, and it's what should we leave everybody with that's listening today? Like your little nuggets of wisdom, and um, that's kind of what we're going to end with.
Oh man, that's tough.
I know.
That's re-
It's such a-
that's really
you wrote a whole
tough.
book on it. Now we're just trying to summarize it.
Yeah, what I've learned over over time is that if you want to build anything sustainable, you have to build your character first. You have to build character first because what I experienced is any gains I got, I didn't keep because I didn't have the character to keep them. And here's proof. Lottery winners go bankrupt, become drug addicts, die, lawsuits, and everything because they didn't have the character, know-how, or wherewithal to deal with that kind of windfall. And so what I've learned, and I read a lot about Charlie Munger and Warren Buffett and those guys, and they have a lot of character. And they invest in character, and they built daily habits. And so they talk about, there's a book called The Joy of Compounding. And it's not just talking about compounding of, money. It's talking about compounding of habits, the daily habits of building character.
Yeah.
And so I still have to every day build these daily habits of building character. And as we, as if we want to be leaders, if we want to be good parents, if we want to be good community involved people, we have to build the character. And as we build character, it's an interesting thing. Things become attracted to us rather than us selfishly go out there and try to get them. So this thing you're doing, in my opinion, is a good example. You're attracting goodness into your life as opposed to going out there and selfishly saying, why don't I get more closings or whatever? Or why doesn't my business? So going out there and marketing more and you will get more business that way, but building more community involvement and building the character starts adding influence, trust, respect, integrity, and all the things where you can be trusted with more of whatever it is that you want. It's not just monetary, but it could be people's information. It could be nonprofit boards. Could be any of those things that possibly you want to attract in your life, relationships. So that's my nugget.
No, it's so
Work
good.
on character daily because I still have to work on this. I love this quote, and it came from a preacher that I didn't go to his church, but I got it from this preacher. And he said, we are all leaky buckets. Every morning before we get out of bed, we have to fill up our bucket because along the day, our bucket leaks. Somebody cuts us off in traffic. Something difficult happens at work. The children have to go to the doctor. All these different things, and our bucket leaks. So if we go out there with an empty bucket, we aren't able to handle it. But if we fill our bucket up before we leave the house, we got a chance.
Yeah. That's so good. I love that. It's such a good analogy and definitely a great way to live life because you got to figure out what fills your bucket, how you're going to fill that, and more and more. All right, guys, listen, I am so excited that you guys hung out with us for this episode. I encourage you to go get Gary's book or go to his website, garyccooper.com. And I want to say thank you, Gary, for coming on the show. We got to spend another great bit of time together. And I want to say thank you to everybody that's listening on the episode right now. And I look forward to seeing you guys on another show. And you guys, thank you again. Go have a wonderful day and we'll see you soon. Bye, everyone.